Burn the boats is a principle made famous mostly by Hernán Cortés, a Spanish conquistador in the early 1500s. The story goes that Cortés lands in what is now modern-day Mexico with 11 ships, 500 men, and some cannons. The version of the story that I heard is that Cortés' small army set up camp on the beach. In the middle of the night, Cortés gathers a small group of his closest men and sets fire to the ships. The next morning, the rest of the men wake up, see the burnt rubble, and think, "What the hell just happened?" Cortés gets them together and says, "The ships are gone. We can't return home and have no way of retreating. The only way we're gonna survive now is to conquer what's ahead of us." The do-or-die mindset focuses their willpower, energy, and efforts like a laser. Those 500 men would go on to conquer the entire Aztec Empire over the course of 3 years. To be fair, it was not a straightforward and easy conquest, with close battles and narrow escapes. There were also several factors working in Cortés' favor. His 500 men later got reinforced by a couple thousand more people, which included natives and Spaniards. But Cortés' feat remains impressive nonetheless. This video isn't here to argue the morality of that event, but simply showcase people or moments that epitomize the principle of burning the boats.
California, you actually start a law firm and then practice law for some period of time.
Well, I had no alternative.
And then you actually...
I had an army of children almost immediately. I painted myself in quite a corner.
Yeah. So zero choice is pretty powerful.
Yes,
for sure.
Yes, of course.
But with 2 fleets on the water, instead of just one, the operation was able to keep moving forward, rather than coming to a complete standstill when Constantius's ships were stalled out in the storm. Asclepiodotus's fleet was able to navigate the rough seas and make a landing somewhere near Southampton. Once ashore, the prefect burned his ships, not just to prevent their capture, but also to remind his men that there would be no retreat. Victory or death, that is what the gods had in store for them.
All through the seminar, I had one aha moment after another. But Sherry and I absolutely love this lesson.
My favorite one is, so far, is if you want to take the island, you need to burn the frickin' boats.
Burn the frickin' boats.
I don't know, but somehow that's relevant to my life. I'm burning the boats.
All change happens with a choice, a decision. You want to change your body? Change it by making a decision. I know it sounds overly simplistic. I know it's 100 times harder than that, but that's where it happens. I'm talking about a real decision where you will not go back. You want to take the island? Burn the frickin' boats.
Don't you love that? Tony says if you want to make real change, you have to go from saying I should to I must.
People should all over themselves. I should fall through. I should spend time with my kids. I should do this thing at work. Shoulding doesn't change it. When it's a must, it's a must when you say, I'm burning the boats.
Yes.
When it's a must, human beings find the way. But most
In order
human
to
beings
take
live
the
in shit.
island, you gotta burn the frickin' boats.
That's right.
Yeah, I would say that was probably my biggest takeaway from yesterday.
Kind of the turning point was when I graduated from high school, and my whole life I was like, I want to be making enough money by the time I graduated to do this full time, and I wasn't. I was still only making a couple $100 a month. So I graduated high school, and my mom was like, either move out or go to a community college. And I didn't have enough money to move out, but I hated school with a passion. But she forced me to go to community college, and that was the worst thing ever. Like that made me hate life. Like borderline suicidal. I just can't stand like having to just sit there and listen to this dumb stuff and listen to some teacher read out a book. So what I did was I would act like I was going to community college, but I would just work on videos in my car and edit and stuff like that. I had straight zeros. And so now the clock had started because once my mom found out, I was screwed.
Were you aware of that? Like, that you're running a risk?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so I would act like I was going to college that whole time, but I wasn't. And I didn't have enough money to move out. And that was kind of when I was just like 15 hours a day, all in. I was like, I'm fucked if this doesn't work. And I had some videos pop off. I couldn't tell you which ones, but I had a month where I made 20 grand because I just had some videos just do really, really well. And then I yeah, I came home and I was like, yeah, I haven't been going to college, and I moved out the next day. My mom almost had a heart attack because she didn't understand YouTube or anything back then, and she was like, man, this guy's gonna work at McDonald's. I wasted all this time. Like, I invested 18 years, and this is what I get.
Where were you living? What part of the country?
North Carolina. That's where I've lived almost my whole life.
And so, how does she feel now?
Oh, she's great.
Is she like
she's beyond
flabbergasted?
happy. Yeah, she loves it. Put her in front of her friends. She loves talking about it. She obviously.
Oh, I
great.
always knew little Jimmy was gonna be a success.
No, she doesn't try to hide it.
And on episode 275 of Founders, I talk about this. Like I remember it like it was yesterday. I had already started the podcast. This is in 2008. 2018. You could see when this was because I start uploading Founders and I never stop on a weekly basis. So that's literally happened the week before. So I'm up in bed late at night. I think my wife's already sleeping. And I'm reading Paul Graham's essay, How to Do What You Love. And that's really a lot of his essays. I feel is like that message, like, it's like, how are you going to find something that you love to do?
Yeah.
And I just snapped. And I was like, you know what? Like, I'm going to take a big risk here. I have a wife and a kid, and my daughter, right? Now I have 2 kids. At that time I had 1. I was like, I have a wife and a daughter. I'm going to stop doing every other project besides the podcast. And I know right now that I love this so much that I'm willing to do it until I go through my last dollar that I have in my bank account. And my belief is that if I'm 100% focused on it and I give everything to it, I'll figure out a way for it to make money, right? And worst case scenario, I get to the point where I go down to my last dollar, I'll get a job and I'll just do this shit at night. Like, I'm just not going to quit. And that realization happened in 2018. It took till 2020 for it to pay my bills. And then now in the last, 133 days, 135 days, when I made it a public podcast, not a subscription-based podcast, and then when I partnered up with Patrick O'Shaughnessy of Invest Like the Best and his podcast network, the growth is like 50x.
Well, we got the bank license, and I'm very happy that we have, and it's been incredibly valuable to us. The path there was very turbulent, and it took a lot of skills I didn't know that it would take to get to. So that was a surprise. I thought there'd be more successful companies competitively. I was really worried about Goldman Sachs. I was worried about a couple of other players copying our strategy and going after the same end game. And they've all kind of failed at this point. And I know that sounds very egotistical, but the facts are the facts. We're the only one operating in 9 products at $2 billion of revenue, GAAP profitable, at our long-term margins, and driving tangible book value growth. I thought it would be a longer war.
Yeah, just to leverage off of that, why did they lose? Was it just not the right DNA, or do you think there was disagreement internally and so that they weren't all rowing in the same direction?
I think for the existing banks and the existing incumbents, it's number 9 or 10 on their priority list. So they have big businesses that pay the bills every day, that they have huge client bases, they have huge capital bases, they have processes. And when it's 9th or 10th on your list, you always can go back to the other 7, if the 9th one's not doing well. And so I call it death grounds. Some people call it burning the boats. Like, when you're a startup, you kind of dock the boat on an island and you get off the boat and you burn it. There's no turning back. You're on the island that you've decided to be on. In their case, there was no burning the boats. They always could go back to their other businesses and survive if a thing they were innovating on didn't work out. So I think that was one part of it.
The 2-tiered walls are built twice as high and twice as thick as any other castle. The far side is protected by a sheer cliff, not to mention the purple rhinos who are stationed there.
It's just like any other castle, only bigger. We do it the same way we always have.
Well, I hope so.
That aside, I'm surprised he burned all the boats.
What on earth is the White Hawk thinking? I wonder if his strategy is to take a position with his back to the river. All right, then. They can temporarily hold out by their numbers alone. We'll march our armies squarely at their ranks.
Now, regroup at the base camp! Retreat!
I'm totally outnumbered in bringing up the rear all by myself. Even so,
They're taking the bait, just as Griffith predicted. Everything was executed so that it would play perfectly into your hand, as usual.
Incredible view.
We're not going to deal with all of them, are we?
Regroup formations! We have arrived at a crucial moment. Our backs are to the river. There's no way to escape. Stake your lives on this fight. Our survival demands that we stake our lives on this fight. And to survive is to be victorious!
Any kind of sport is the same thing. What separates the guy that's first from second, from third, or whatever? You know, you all got certain physical characteristics that help you in your sport and so on. So you're all gifted up there. So what can separate the guy from first and second and third? It's all up there. That's the key.
How did you develop your mindset? Was that something that you always had, or was it something that you developed as you were training?
I think it's something I already had. And I kind of left home when I was 16, so I was out on my own on the street. And, you know, you're either going to get smart and, you know, look after yourself, or you're going to fall down. There's nobody there to catch me. So that was there from an early age, I think. And I was just very determined to do this thing that I felt I could be good at in order to change my life and change, you know, the projection of my life, the people around me. I grew up on a housing estate in the UK. I had no education. I was in a jail when I was 18. So I had all that. That was, you know, the people around me, I was like, I didn't want part of that future. I wanted to do something else. And I got this thing that I was good at, so I'm going to take it and run with it, you know?
It's crazy how many people have similar stories like that, where they were in just a terrible environment and they realized that they had to toughen up, they had to smarten up, and they had to get out of there. And if not for those terrible situations, who knows if they would have ever reached the levels of greatness that they did.
I can tell you, from my point of view, I don't think I would have done. Because I would be too comfortable. Right. If you're comfortable, you're not going to put yourself through that extreme kind of pressure and pain. And, you know, I wanted to improve my life, change my life. And through the sport, here I am sitting, talking to you on this show. People are listening to me. I've been all around the world thanks to my sport. So it's been great for me, you know?
I find a lot of people, if you are undermining their value system and where they have arrived at in life, and you seem to find value elsewhere, they take it as like an assault against their values.
They really do.
They can't accept that maybe you value something more, or you want something different than what they want because of what they have invested in their time. It's a tough one.
It's also very provoking. So there's different contexts, right? So that's a context where somebody's responsible for the official wisdom or conventional wisdom. Yeah. Then there's the context of somebody who doesn't want to be threatened, that they should be doing more with their lives. And so you deciding to break convention is very threatening, very uncomfortable. But for whatever reason, that was the pressure. And then I came up with the second epiphany, which has shaped my entire career and my life, which is, I'm not going to be able to withstand these interventions, whether it be the police picking me up at McDonald's or the lectures. Remember, I was an intelligent kid. I manifested as like, I made sure I covered everything up. So I had my Jordache jeans back at the time. You wouldn't really know.
Yeah.
So I was like, I need to self-sabotage. I need to burn the boats. I need to put myself in a position where the school writes me off. And that's when I decided I would fail every single class. So I was unredeemable, even to myself, and sit in the same homeroom with the kids with the beepers, you know, making very different career choices. And that's what I did. I failed every single thing except for typing. No bullshit, because I thought that was useful.
Tell me about your book. Why'd you decide to write one, by the way?
Because I feel like, so you get to a certain place in life and you start showing up in the world as the byproduct of everything you've done. So if you look at me, I'm a guy on Shark Tank, you presume I have wealth, I teach at Harvard Business School, all these things. And that is very uninteresting to me. What's interesting to me is what I witnessed when I was 16, where what's interesting is the pain I carry about powerlessness and then the empathy that stokes, and understanding how coming from that background will make you very ill-equipped to go for it. That you conjure all these reasons why you're not good enough, not equipped, even though you might have tremendous potential. I fortunately I think I hacked into the codes through self-sabotage, when I was young, the high school decision. And I wanted to use the authority that I've collected in society that makes people listen to me, all these different things, right? And use that very specifically to talk to those who aren't self-possessed, who it doesn't come naturally to go all in. And let me appropriate this very militaristic idea, burn the boats, which has imbued with authority because it goes back to the beginning of recorded history. Every society, every culture has a burn the boat story of a general who was outnumbered. It's not just Cortez. He had a better marketing campaign. It actually goes back way before him to Sun Tzu and the Old Testament. Let me take those words and let me recast the boats as the metaphorical boats in our lives that make us hold two opposing thoughts at the same time. Plan A, the real dream, and then what we're told is prudent, which is the retreat, the backup plan, which we do to our kids, right? Like, that's good. You want to be Taylor Swift, but make sure you get an accounting degree. And so I wanted to write a book for the anxiety-ridden, the angst-laden, those who suffer from imposter syndrome, and show, hey, I did it. And I did it through a series of decisions that self-sabotaged my retreat. And let me show you a way to work through all the things that hold you back. And let me present to you case studies that took me a damn long time to work on, from people I worked with. Scarlett Johansson's my partner. I mean, NFL coaches. Let me all show you the common denominator that they had to break through and let go of those metaphorical boats and use science and research, because everyone rejects this. I need a backup plan. Even when I talk to military guys, sometimes they say, well, that's counter to everything we're taught. I'm like, no, it's not true. The backup plans you have are tactical. We burn the boats for goals. I'm going to win that war. I'm going to take that hill, right? And so that's why I wrote the book. I worked on it during the pandemic for 2 years. When I wake up every morning and I get a DM from somebody who is completely different in a socioeconomic way, right? Could be a Black grandmother or an immigrant or a woman, and say, I connect with you. That feels like I'm a life worth living. Like I created meaning out of what I've been through. Because as you could tell from our conversation, like it doesn't matter, like that stuff doesn't matter, but that fucking matters, right? So that's why I wrote the book.
Throw your soldiers into positions whence there is no escape, and they will prefer death to flight. If they will face death, there is nothing they may not achieve. Officers and men alike will put forward their uttermost strength. Soldiers, when in desperate straits, lose the sense of fear. If there is no place of refuge, they will stand firm. If they are in hostile country, they will show a stubborn front. If there is no help for it, they will fight hard. When you surround an army, leave an outlet free. Do not press a desperate foe too hard. Such is the art of warfare.
So I know you get this question a lot, but what would be, say, the three most important pieces of advice you could give to the trader who's trying to come anywhere close to your knowledge and talent?
Well, yeah. Well, first of all, I mean, you really have to, if you don't love doing this, if you do it just for the money, you're probably not going to be successful. You're not going to withstand the learning curve. I often say if 43 years have gone by and I still was a losing trader, I'd probably still be trading because I'd still be challenged. And I never thought about quitting. I didn't make any money for 5 or 6 years, and never for a second did it dawn upon me to stop or quit, or that it wasn't going to happen. I made a full-blown commitment that I was going to the end. That it was either succeed or die, for lack of a better explanation. But you have to really love the challenge, because the learning curve is brutal and it's long. And even when you think you've gotten it, then you hit a new cycle and you realize, your knowledge may not be, and your skill may not be as good as you thought it was. And people get success very early and then they blow up. That probably the worst thing that can happen is you get early success. The best thing I think that can happen to a trader is they blow up, hopefully when they don't have a whole lot of money, and they learn respect for the market, they learn respect for risk, and then they have a chance at making it. But I would find somebody that has proven themselves, through a lot of cycles, and really truly has proven themselves, and find someone a style that makes sense to you. O'Neill was one of those people, for me. And then commit to that one style, and even commit to a coach or a mentor Because if you start bouncing around and you're trying different things, you become a jack of all trades. You never get good at any one thing. So it takes time to even master one style. And you got to be patient with yourself because you're not going to be a market wizard in a year or two. It's going to take a long time, but it's well worth it, especially if you're young. If you're young and you got to put 10 years in to have something pay you for a lifetime, or maybe like me, I mean, when I originally retired, I retired at 38 years old. I didn't ever have to work again, but I loved it so much, I didn't stay retired for very long. And finally, you have always respect risk, and that's something that you're just going to have to learn. My words probably aren't going to do anything until you experience some pain and some losses, and then you'll know what that means.
So we embarked upon that journey to create SpaceX in 2002. And in the beginning, I wouldn't even let my friends invest because I didn't want to lose their money. I thought it was like, I'd rather lose my own money. So, and then we almost did die at SpaceX, actually. So I budgeted for 3 flights. I mean, technically, I did have a plan where I had the money from PayPal. I had like about 180 million from PayPal. And I thought, I'll allocate half of that to SpaceX and Tesla and Solar City, and that should be fine. I'll have 90 million, like just lots, But then what happened is things cost more and took longer than I thought. So I had a choice of either put the rest of the money in or the companies are going to die. And it's like, so I ended up putting all the money in and borrowing money for rent from friends. 2008 was brutal. 2008, we had the 3rd consecutive failure of the Falcon 1 rocket for SpaceX. Tesla almost went bankrupt. We closed our financing round 6 p.m. Christmas Eve, 2008. It was the last hour of the last day that it was possible. We would have gone bankrupt 2 days after Christmas otherwise. And I got divorced. That was like rough, man. 2 minutes scar tissue there.
Well, it poses a question, or maybe you just answer the question of why is no one else doing these things?
What's your pain threshold? Well, if it's real high. I mean, SpaceX is alive by the skin of its teeth, so is Tesla. If things had just gone a little bit the other way, both companies would be dead. And I had, like, one of the most difficult choices I have ever faced in life was in 2008. I think I had maybe $30 million left, or $30 or $40 million left in 2008. And I had 2 choices. I could put it all into one company, and then the other company would definitely die, or split it between the 2 companies. But if I split it between the 2 companies, then both might die. When you put your blood, sweat, and tears into creating something, or building something, it's like a child. And so it's like, which one am I going to let one starve to death? I couldn't bring myself to do it, so I split the money between the 2. Fortunately, thank goodness, they both came through.
I started Navy SEAL training with stress fractures. Stress fractures,
That's
not shin splints.
That's hard to finish.
Stress fractures. Starting the hardest training, arguably the hardest training in the world with stress fractures. And this is when I started to not put a cap on the body if the mind is there. Every morning I would wake up at 3:30 in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning, go to my dive cage, go in there before anybody saw me. I'd get duct tape, and I would tape from my forefoot all the way up to the mid of my calf, and I would put 2 black socks on. And so I ran not using the pivot.
Oh my gosh.
And I ran my hip flexors. So for the first 45 minutes to an hour, I was in absolute excruciating pain. But what motivated me through that whole process was the fact that this kid came from that. I'm in the hardest training in the world. in the worst shape of my entire life. What if I can graduate amongst these studs?
Wow.
All these guys around me are studs. They're stallions. They're gladiators in my class. They're all healthy. Most of them. They're not broken like this. They may have some, everybody's sick going through that training. But if I can graduate, it would change everything for me. If I can start the hardest training in the world, broken, and graduate. So my mind fed off of that. You are now, from the weakest man, you are now the hardest man to ever live. If you can do this. If you can do this. Life is one big mind game.
Yeah.
And you're playing it with yourself. Is it true? I don't care. It got me through the hardest training, starting out broken. Where most people quit, I had just started.
Wow.
And when you take that mindset and you learn to flip that around, that's what made me powerful. And my body followed. And 3 months later, my stress fractures were healed by running on them.
It's calcifying it, just like.
I never had them since. I'm 43 years old.
Wow.
I ran 7,000 miles in 2007. Haven't had a stress fracture since. And I'm not saying to do that. I'm just saying that when the mind and the body connect and you don't give yourself a way out. The only way out for me at that time was death.
Wow.
I'm going to be a Navy SEAL.
Or I'm going to die.
Or I'm going to die trying.
Yeah.
Period. And my body said, Roger that. We're going to get you through this.
So when the mind gives it no way out,
No way out.
Your body says, okay, I believe you now.
I have to heal.
I'm going to figure this out with you. We're
Yes.
going to do this. It's going to be the worst part of your life, but you're going to survive.
We're going to survive.
Wow.
And as you hear in that 100-mile race I did, I started figuring out more and more and more and more about at the other end of suffering is a life that no one, and I'm not talking about go out there and kill yourself. Don't take these words and flip them and say, oh my God, no. It just be uncomfortable. I call it suffering.
Don't physically injure yourself.
Yes, not saying that.
And then be out for 6 months.
That's right.
That's no good.
That's no good. I'm not saying do what I did.
Yeah.
I was in a spot that life forced me. I had a choice. I had a choice to be this guy or the guy that's in front of you. I had choices. I chose this path.
And you're still choosing it.
And I'm still choosing
You can go back to that guy at any moment.
Because I found out something with those stress fractures. I found out something through facing all these things. I found out a whole nother world, which is why I walk around with all my stuff in a black backpack.
Wow.
I found out a whole nother way. A whole nother way.
Well, I hate Plan B. And I tell you why. Because we have so many doubters, as I've said earlier, the no-sayers. We have so many of those people that say no and you can't do it, it's impossible. That is okay because we just turn off, as I said earlier, and we listen and we hear the no being a yes. You can't do it, you can do it, and all of that. So that is possible to do that amongst all the negative people around you. But when you start doubting yourself, that's very dangerous. Because now what you're basically saying is that if my plan doesn't work, I have a fallback plan, I have a plan B. And that means that you start thinking about plan B, and every thought that you put into plan B, you're taking away now that thought and that energy from plan A. And it's very important to understand that we function better if there is no safety net, because plan B becomes a safety net. It says that if I fail, then I fall and I get picked up and I have something else there that will protect me. And that's not good, because people perform better when there's no safety net. People perform better in sports and everything else if you don't have a plan B. I'm telling you, I've never ever had a plan B. I made a full commitment that I'm gonna go and be a bodybuilding champion. I made a full commitment that I'm gonna be in America. I made a full commitment that I'm gonna get into show business and I'm going to be a leading man. No matter what it takes, I will do the work. I would do the work over and over and over until I get it. And the same was in politics and everything like that. So to me, it is very dangerous to have a plan B because you're cutting yourself off from the chance of really succeeding. And the reason, one of the main reasons why people want to have a plan B is because they are worried about failing. What is if I fail, then I don't have anything else? Well, let me tell you something, don't be afraid of failing because there's nothing wrong with failing. You have to fail in order to climb that ladder. There's no one that doesn't fail. Michael Jordan said in one of his interviews, when they said, "You're unbelievable, you're the greatest basketball player of all times." I mean, tell me about that. And he says, well, you're just mentioning the successes. But he says, for me to become the greatest basketball player, I missed 9,000 shots when I was playing basketball at the NBA games. So during these games that he was so successful, he missed 9,000 shots. Does it make him a failure? No. He's one of the greatest basketball players of all times, but he failed 9,000 times. Do you get it? We all fail. It's okay.